compressors. So, you know, there's all kinds of compressors on the market. There's electric compressors, gas compressors, there's 60-gallon compressors, 9-gallon compressors, 2-gallon compressors, all kinds of CFMs. What is, you know, all this compressor stuff mean, and how do we pick the right compressor for our application? Okay, so just to kind of give you a quick overview of the big compressors, you know, here's an example of a big electric compressor. Okay, so this is a 3 horsepower electric compressor with a 20-gallon tank on it, versus this is a gas compressor, 11 horsepower with a 9-gallon tank on it. So, you know, you've got more power but a smaller tank. And then you've got, this is a regular 5.5 horsepower gasoline compressor. So obviously smaller than that one. But and then you've got the big giant compressors. You know, this is a 60-gallon air compressor. Both of these are electric. One's 3 horsepower, one's 1.5 horsepower. But it's how fast and how powerful that motor is going to determine what your CFM is, your cubic feet per minute delivery of air. So really, when you're buying a compressor, you need to figure out what tools you're going to run. Okay, so for instance, if you're running a shop and you've got impact wrenches, you've got paint sprayers or something like that, then you're automatically going to have to go to something with a much bigger tank. Okay, now the tank doesn't have to be this configuration. It doesn't have to stand up and sit in the corner. You could get a compressor like this that, you know, takes up less space, if you will, has plenty of airflow and the volume that you need to operate your tools. So, and the reason you're going to need, if you're operating tools like this, the reason you're going to need a lot of air is because when you pull the trigger, this is constantly using air. You know, it's just using air. So you've got to have a lot of volume of air so that your tool operates at the level that it's supposed to operate. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got nail guns. Okay, so nail guns are basically short bursts of air. Boom, 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 boom. Just use a little bit of air at a time. They're not just a constant wide open type of air situation. So that allows you to take and get a compressor like these, you know, on wheels, a gasoline compressor. You can get the same pump in an electric one, but it makes it much more portable. You know, you got to throw it in the back of a truck or in the back of a van. You know, your 5.5 horsepower compressor will run probably 3 to 4 framing guns, you know, pretty comfortably, really fast. You know, this one will run 8 or 9 framing guns. It'll run 9 roofing guns, no problem. So that's, you know, you're not going to take this and put it in the back of a trailer and try to run it off of power in the job site. This is just overkill for that type of application. Okay, so nail guns just take a little bit shorter burst of air. So that's what you need. But when you're buying a compressor, you know, you really need to kind of figure out how many guns you're going to operate, or, you know, how many of even these are going to operate. You know, manuals always tell you how much CFM it takes to operate a tool, and you can kind of do some math there to figure out what your requirement is for how big of a pump you're going to need. Okay, so not only is, if you'll notice, this 5.5 horsepower gasoline compressor, look at the size of this pump here, right? The top of it. And then look at the size of this pump on the 11.5 horsepower. So, you know, your pistons are bigger in here, your airflow delivery is going to be much higher. It's going to produce a lot more air and fill up much faster than the previous pump right here. Okay, so, you know, if you're talking about CFM, this one right here has got about 18 CFM, okay, cubic feet per minute. This one's going to pump out about 8 CFM. So, you know, when you're buying a compressor, you're really buying air delivery. And you need to think about how much air you're going to need. And I would say add to that, because you never want to underbuy air on a compressor. If you underbuy air, your tool's not going to operate. You're going to have to get another compressor. So really, if you're trying to save that money, it's better to buy a little bit, you know, higher output compressor in the beginning, and it'll last you to do everything that you need, versus trying to, you know, save a little bit and buy a little teeny compressor and, you know, trying to operate off. You're just gonna waste money, you know. So we got to really think about buying air when you're buying a compressor, airflow, if you will.